Hi, my name is Wudang Funk, and I am your local Louisvillian Wudang monk. Here we're moving on to the next part of the Wudang Method, which is the 8 pieces of the Brocade, internal, external. Before you do this part of the Wudang Method, you should have practiced every part that I posted before, with the exception of maybe the single leg stance, and with the exception of maybe the twisted step. And that's primarily if you have knee problems or something of the sort. But first, let me talk about what internal, external means. Internal, I move. External, I move you, right? So once you get this part of it, is when you can begin to apply these movement skills in a martial arts sense. So, without further ado, you would stack your balance just like we always did. And when I do listening internal, listening external, I'm going to do all the same things that I did in the regular basic exercise. Except for now, I'm going to think like not only is the sky pressing down through me and the earth pressing up through me, but with it, in conjunction, it's pressing through the imaginary person in front of me, or if you're actually applying it in a martial arts sense, or in a dance sense, then it is actually moving the person in front of you. And all the same things, the open and close of the hips with it, the breath with the motion, breathing in, breathing out. But now I am facilitating with my internal motion the notion that I'm moving someone else with it. And even though I'm not practicing with someone else in front of me, I'm imagining that and I am focusing in that sort of way, and then that will help me when I go to apply it in that way. And so we follow the same notion with all of the 8 pieces. So when I do spiraling internal, spiraling external, there's the spiral that's going around me, and there's the spiral that's going around the imaginary person in front of me, or if you're applying it, the person in front of you. It fits together almost like clockwork, where it's like the spirals roll off of each other. So internal, I move me. External, I move you. Internal, external, we move together. Now, when I do compression internal, external, you almost want to imagine like the way that the pistons in a car engine work, right? So you have one set of pistons that is compressing while the other set of pistons is expanding. So when I do compression internal, external, I compress as I expand the opponent. I expand as I compress the opponent. And once again, I'm imagining that pillar of light, but now I'm also imagining a pillar of light in front of me where the center line of my opponent would be. And at the same time, you can think about, my teacher called it the 7-bladed fan. So you think about like all of their joints are compressing together as you compress them, and all of their joints are expanding apart. Now with this one, you can aim it at different spots. Begin by aiming it at the Mingmen, just like you would with yourself, right? And begin by thinking about compressing into about a baseball-sized space. It is possible to cause serious internal damage if you think about compressing it into a little tiny space. So I want you to keep your focus as though you're compressing into a baseball-sized space at first. That way, until you have gained a certain level of control, you won't accidentally hurt your partner if you're working with somebody. So you have to learn to aim it, and you have to learn to control it. You can actually do the dimbak with this. So that's why I'm emphasizing that. I won't go into detail about how, but just make sure that you aim it properly and make sure that you control it properly. Differentiation, internal, external. So here in the basic exercise, I learned to fold from my center, differentiating yin from yang. So now, think like you are moving your opponent, or your dance partner, so to speak, in that way. It has sort of a splitting property to it. So here is if I just focus internal. Now I project it outward, internal, external. So differentiation internal, I differentiate. Differentiation external, I differentiate you. And it's subtle when you're watching me just do it in the air. It's mostly a mental shift, but it's also how your internal motion expresses through your external motion. So once again, so as a system, you move the other person in that way. All right. Turning internal, turning external. It doesn't look that different from the basic exercise, once again. But here, I envision the two wheels, and I'm bending my spine with the turning of the great wheel. But now I'm thinking like that motion is going to connect outward in front of me and move the other person in the same way. Like the two wheels are turning over together. And spinning internal, spinning external, same thing. Now, you might say, well, if I'm doing my spinning this way, then to really get the other person to move in that way, it would go the other way. This is true. You can actually do reverse spinning. You can do reverse turning here, so as well. So turning, reverse turning, and then it looks like cloud hands, right? So spinning, reverse spinning would go this way. But if I'm spinning in the way that we learn at first, then externally, I'm going to be moving the opponent through reverse spinning, right? It's the same type of motion, it's just going the other way. You can reverse all of them. But here, I'm thinking like there's this big wheel around me, like the spinning wheel, and there's the big spinning wheel around the other person as well, and they're going to move together in conjunction. Just like turning. So again, it doesn't look that different from the internal exercise. It's getting a different feel and a different, a more comprehensive mental image. Where I have the motion inside connecting with the motion outside. Pounding internal, external. So when we do it internal, I taught it like this at first. There's some different ways that you could do it. A lot of traditions will teach it this way at first, right? Sometimes I do it this way at first to keep your focus like it's coming from your dantian. Different methods, same principle. So the goal is to learn the principle. So here, it's gonna fit together in the same way that compression, internal, compression, external fit together. Remember with the pistons moving the opposite way? So here, internally I pound inward, externally I pound outward. Internally I pound outward, externally I pound inward. And again, each of the exercises, the way that you see it, is a method to teach you the principle of motion. So there's different ways that you can do it, and that's why you see different traditions doing it different ways, although they don't always explain it to you like I am right now. Okay, so then for twisting. So when we initially learned twisting, internal, it was like this, right? We had one side, and then I included the reverse twist as well. Then we went on to do it from the different stances, and I talked about drilling your feet into the ground with it. So now, with the twist, think like the twist is going to project and twist around the other person's frame as well. So I've got the twist twisting me, but the twists are also twisting you. And I want to think like it goes all the way down into the ground through me, and it goes all the way through the other person's frame down into the ground as well. So once again, you should have gone through all of the steps before, unless it is something that is maybe hard on your knee, if you have a knee problem or hip problem or whatever, right? Or an ankle problem, anything of the like. If it hurts, don't do it, right? But by practicing, you can actually build yourself up and do things that you maybe couldn't have done before over time, right? Anyways, you should have gone through the steps before this. We did the 8 pieces of brocade, and then we did the 8 pieces of brocade in different stances, shifting in your stance and moving. So then that way you learn to maintain the motion while also maintaining your connection to the ground. Now we're learning to be able to use it to move someone else. And you can practice that by yourself. You can also practice that with another person. It actually starts with practicing it by yourself though. And now once you get this part, you can begin to add it in a martial arts sense. So up until this point, it's been more of learning to move yourself in a health sense. Now you can learn to be able to add your motion to strikes while moving, as in while moving your feet and maintaining your connection with the ground, and successfully have a powerful motion with these 8 types of motions in conjunction with your martial arts. So then you can take any martial arts move from any style, actually even on the ground, but mostly think about with standing styles for now, and you can juice it up in 8 different ways. So this essentially gives you 8 different ways that you could practice any punch, any kick, any form, and we'll get into that later. But that is all that I've got for you today. Thank you very much, and next week we are going to add circle walking.
Circle walking!
Yep, like Devin's doing right now.